Hey guys, Dylan here from Store Growers, head of Google Ads strategy. Um, in the last video, we kind of went through Google Ads in 2026, what we see, common mistakes in accounts, how people aren't using some of the new features and updates. So I thought let's myself and Dennis get back together again and talk this time about product feeds. Yeah, quite a big area from our end. Yeah, Dennis, thoughts on product feeds?
Yes, a lot of thoughts. Yeah, I feel that it's still like an area of the Google Ads account that many people basically sleep on. So it's the less we get our hands on, or the less we can control the actual Google Ads campaigns, the more like things like product feeds become important. So I think
Yeah.
it's good to kind of like pay a little bit more attention to it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, in terms of common mistakes, I think that's something we really want to dial in on in this call because there's some things that are obviously avoidable, and there's just a lot of things that people just don't even know about. And I think the first thing is when we chatting to clients and when we're consulting for people, they just don't know about Merchant Center or the value of Merchant Center. I think it's more just they set it up, they get it integrated with their website, and then don't really look beyond that. So I think that's kind of the starting point that I've seen in terms of issues with people at the moment. Apart from just logging in and going in, getting familiarizing yourself, looking at some errors. What's your thoughts in terms of how people can get beyond that barrier?
Yeah, I think the main thing about not knowing or not logging into Google Merchant Center and not understanding what's going on is very often I see, especially companies with large product catalogs, where they might have, I don't know, 5,000 products, and then you look in Merchant Center and there's like 2,000 of them being disapproved.
Yeah,
So sometimes that's something they know because they don't have like the necessary product data or something. But sometimes it's also they've run into certain issues and they're not really aware that that amount of products are not showing. And I think that's a real potential gap because inside of Google Ads, you might not see well, the products that aren't getting clicks or aren't getting impressions. They're not really showing up in your reports anyway. So then you really run the risk of not having bestsellers or potential bestsellers show up. So I think that's like to me that's like a really important one to yeah to know that all
yeah.
your products are okay.
Yeah, yeah. I think something I've seen recently as well is they had their campaigns named after a specific product category, and it was on all products, unfortunately. But then the products that the category was named after was primarily disapproved anyway, so those actually weren't getting the clicks. So yeah, just logging into Google Merchant Center, there's quite a nice status tab. You can also see the history in terms of when things got disapproved and stuff. It's just a really good starting point in terms of understanding what is actually feeding into Google and what's kind of what's approved or not. So I think that's quite important. Um, in terms of really understanding product feed optimization and trying to make something out of it, I think some of the big areas is just people getting really bogged down into the details and sometimes maybe focusing on attributes that don't really matter and sometimes just trying to think too broadly in terms of the potential opportunities. Um, yeah, just give me your thoughts in terms of the product data, attributes. What are you seeing people really struggling with?
Yeah, so oftentimes when people are like looking at their product feeds in more detail, very often they become really like focused on one particular thing. One thing I often hear is like, what's the optimal product title structure, for example, right? And they
Yeah,
spend really a lot of time thinking like, oh, like brand should be first, or no, like first like the category name, or we need to have like the correct sizes in the title, all of those things, and um, sometimes that's actually not what matters most, right?
yeah,
And it doesn't really matter to have like the perfect structure or not. Just having some terms in your title will already be better. So let me ask you something, Dylan. Like if you
Yeah.
meet someone who's like a little bit overwhelmed when it comes to their product feeds, right? Like and you want them to be a bit more strategic rather than saying like, oh, like we need to have like all of the colors for all of our products and then spend
Yeah.
or have somebody spend a day doing that. Like, what would you
Yeah.
say? Like, where should they start to do this?
Yeah, I think first place that I like to look at is within the search terms report, and then also within their actual website hierarchy. I think often we see product titles are just totally different to what the searches are that are coming through. So yeah, in terms of things you can do, I would just say try to be quite strategic. You end up accidentally putting in the wrong type of terms coming through, you're going to end up showing for those terms as well. So yeah, I definitely think just taking stock in terms of what's going on, and just try to identify what is winning and what's the clear weaknesses that you're seeing.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. And would you say like besides like is like product titles, would that be like your main focus for people starting out or?
Yeah, I think the product titles, the main focus for a number of reasons. I think it really has some of the biggest impact in terms of click-through rate and trying to drive sales. Obviously, relevance in terms of search categories as well. So I think if you are going to make any changes and if you are going to get started, start with some product titles. Start working with a few things. Looking at your search term data and trying to break that out and see if there are specific categories that are showing some good performance, but maybe aren't being focused on enough. When you focus too generic on your overall category, what ends up happening is now you're competing with everybody for that category as well, and there's a lot of competition. Sometimes the value comes in like really nailing down and narrowing down to those subcategories and those sub niches. So the search term data can really help you find that, but then at the same time, just make some changes to your titles because that would have the biggest impact at the end of the day.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think just on the title side of things as well, I think some of the mistakes that we actually see is just people settling for the default of we've connected the website to Merchant Center. There's a standard product feed that comes through, usually through an app integration, like the Google Sales Channel or something like that. But then they don't look at it again. So I think one thing is when to know when you should optimize your product feed, and I think there's quite a bit that can happen before that. It's just you need to understand that you can change your product data. So I think just familiarizing yourself with some of those attributes and just trying to understand how can I go beyond just the standard website structure. And yeah, I think that's an important element that I've noticed.
Yeah, I see that too, like with clients and people that we audit the accounts for, and where they will say like I ask them about like their product title or their product feeds better, and they say, oh yeah, like we're using like Simprocess or we're using this app or that app, and thinking that that's like then it's done, right? And what's
Yeah,
done is the setup. Like you've connected your website with Google Merchant Center. And some other, and then you ask like, oh, but do you know like what information you're sending through? So some clients, especially on Shopify, they might have done some SEO work, and where
yeah,
on Shopify you can actually improve your product titles and have them a little bit more, yeah, expand them a little bit in terms of what keywords you're using. So they might be sending that like title SEO and a description, but then they don't realize that that's also like you're not the information that you need to run in your Google Shopping ads, right? You still have the ability to make changes. So I think, as you said, so just realizing that what's on your website doesn't need to be like on your product in your product feeds, especially if you have somebody running your ads, if you have an agency or something running that. It should be part, or at least in my opinion, it should be part of like their package of work to also be looking at this product data, right? Not just
Yeah.
giving you the rundown afterwards, like, oh, like product A got this many clicks, but as you said, like before, investigating which searches did this product rank for, which it didn't. I have a good
Yeah.
example for one of my clients where um, they're selling really specific. They're in like in the car niche, and they're selling like aftermarket accessories, and they're selling really specific parts for like a specific brand of car for a specific model of car. And
Yeah.
there, like we see like, oh, this product is not approving. So one of the first things that we check is then, is this product showing for the right searches? Because you don't want it to show for like new car bumper, right? Because it's irrelevant for that search there. But you want
Yeah.
it to be like, oh, it's like a Ford Mustang bumper, front bumper or something. So just understanding like the performance of that product is really linked to the data that's in Google Merchant Center. I think that's a big one.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. And just going back to that, the default of pulling things through, a lot of times it's not really correct or formatted how you'd want it to be for Google Ads. And I think the product type is such a um, it's such an evident attribute to show, like when people are setting up their websites and they've added certain product categories, sometimes it doesn't translate to a good structure within Google Ads. So I mean, I've seen that quite a bit, and it's usually what I tell people is like, beyond product titles, just go have a look at your product types, because they can really help you get a better understanding of your product performance based on your categories. Sometimes you'll see some really really weird ones pulling in from the website. Yeah, in terms of something else I've seen quite a bit is just not understanding that the shopping landscape is very competitor driven, right? So we're thinking, okay, what can we tweak and tinker in terms of our shopping ads, but not really understanding, okay, there's also competitors, and they're also doing something, and they're also trying to get an edge. So I notice people don't really look at that landscape and say, okay, my product is showing for this search. How is it going against? How is it showing up against all of these other items? And I think a common thing I've seen before as well is you'd have a really popular product, and your price is like 20 to 30% above all of the other competitors in that same auction, and that's something that obviously affects whether someone's going to purchase from you or not. So I think, yeah, just it is a marketplace at the end of the day. It is an auction. So yeah, that's definitely something people aren't realizing.
Yeah, and I think there's a trend that a lot of like agencies or freelancers or something also say like, oh, like don't and maybe Google also says it, but they will care less. Like, don't search for your own brand or don't click on your own search terms. And like clients will do this anyway. And I think actually it's a
Yeah,
very healthy thing to do because you mentioned about like the pricing being very different. And for some clients, they have like a very good grasp on pricing, and they know how they compare against competitors, which competitors do price match, and all those dynamics. Because again, you're focused on getting your own product data as good as you can, but then when it
yeah,
comes to something like price, for the large part, it's like outside of your control, right? Like, how
yeah,
are your competitors are gonna be priced? Are they gonna go below you or above you? Or another thing besides price is also if you're drop shipping, you know that there will be 5, 6 other sites like yours that have like identical map pricing. So everyone's gonna have like that same price, gonna have that same picture, that same title.
yeah,
Um, Probably might even have the same amount of Google reviews if you put in like the GTIN. And then the question is like, why should people click you, right? And there's no real answer, or there's actually no reason why they should click
Yeah.
on your ad. So that's like, I don't have like the answer for you then, but you can change things up, right? To have like maybe a different picture. I know there's a lot of AI tools that can kind of easily help you generate like pictures that that feature your product but might look a little bit different. So maybe that's like an avenue to investigate or something.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that just comes back to the fact that your shopping ad is still an ad at the end of the day, and your ad needs to be relevant, obviously, to the user search, but then it just needs to stand out and be different from those competitors. I think when people are searching for those items, what do you see first? Is like, does the product match what I'm looking for? Is the price within the range that I want? And then there's a couple of other things like, okay, then there's reviews, and then there's images, etc. So just enriching that ad to really stand out from your competitors is a really good way to try and make the most out of your product feed.
Yeah, totally. Totally.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I think something that I even struggled with quite a bit in the beginning when I was doing optimizations and stuff is just thinking that it's like all or nothing. If I need to optimize my product feeds, it's like, oh, I've got 1,000+ products. How am I actually going to tackle this task? Like it's just far too many. And I think that's a mindset that prevents a lot of people from actually getting into it. I always say like, just start, just find something. And like we said, it could be the product titles, it could be errors, but just start with making some kind of change. But at the end of the day, I mean, if you're trying to optimize too many things and you're giving yourself unrealistic timelines, you're just going to be demotivated and you just don't really want to get involved and look at it anymore, you know? So I think it doesn't have to be everything all at once. Really break it down into kind of sections of work.
Yeah, I've seen like so many spreadsheets of people that have been working on their product feed for a long time, and it's very often those spreadsheets like end up just dying on a hard drive somewhere without really
Yeah,
getting implemented. One approach I really like is to do like an 80/20 of your catalog, right? Like what products are generating the bulk of your sales. In your backend or even on Google Shopping, right? Like if you've been running shopping ads as part of standard shopping or PMax for a while, look at which products like generate most results and then think about like, oh, like how can we do better? What if for these like top products, what if our titles, images,
yeah,
descriptions, product types, GTINs, like what if we had like everything dialed in? What would that look like? And then starting with those, and that's probably like half an hour work versus like hours and hours of work,
yeah.
right? So
Yeah. And I think trying to do all or nothing also ends up with like random changes on certain items, you know? So when you're working with that breakdown of 20 products at a time, 50, 100 products at a time, you can give it a lot more attention to kind of make something of a significant change. So I've got a theory. I'm going to change my title so that I can get X out of it. And then you can measure that and you can really test like whether it works or not. Making random changes to the whole account, you don't really see what actually makes the difference at the end of the day. So yeah, A/B testing. It's not just on creative and ad level. It's really also on your shopping ad level, and that's just coming back to your shopping ads are ads as well. So
yeah, yeah, and I think especially these changes, there's a lot of sort of like uncertainty about what's really like what will really drive things forward. I know internally, like we have like our product hierarchy. We know like which things to tackle first, second, last, and we're not gonna be if we take on like a new client, we're not gonna be messing about um, making small changes to a product description, for example, because we have like lots of more important things to tackle. And especially like being strategic about testing and about making changes to these product feeds, you actually know if it's worth investing more effort into it, right? If you spend like half an hour improving some titles and you do see a lift in terms of impressions, in terms of click-through rate, probably not in terms of sales, but if you see like movement on those smaller parts, then you know like, oh, like it's worth like investing more time to do more of my
Yeah.
catalog, to handle more of my catalog this way. So um,
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. I think over my time, and I'm sure over your time, we've seen plenty more mistakes and a lot more in-depth mistakes as well. I think the ones we've just run through is really for people who are really trying to grasp what product feeds are and what product feed optimization is. But yeah, if you want to leave everyone with just one key element of understanding product feeds, or what should you do now, yeah, what kind of advice would you give them?
yeah, maybe one thing that we didn't address here in this chat yet is um, as a business owner or the business owner, if you're managing campaigns on behalf of a client, the business owner usually has a really good grasp on products, right? They know
Yeah.
exactly which product sells well. They know exactly which products should be selling well but aren't. They know what margins they have on certain brands and certain subcategories. Um, and I feel that in a lot of accounts, especially ones that aren't being managed by the owner, that information is lost.
Yeah.
And it's I look at it for us as people that are managing accounts or helping people manage accounts. I sort of call that like product IQ, right? Like how do we bring all of this knowledge into the Google Ads account? And through with a product feed, there's actually a lot of ways you can do that, right? Like you can really indicate in the product feed saying like, oh, these are the best sellers. If we're gonna spend like $1,000, 800 dollars should go to these best sellers, and that's then we have the rest of the catalog, or these products are too cheap or too expensive, or um, so I feel that if you don't do anything in terms of product organization, but you just are much more selective at which products that you're actually going to advertise, I think that's like probably like step zero or mistake zero that we didn't talk about.
Yeah.
I think that that's it. And then afterwards, do all of the things we mentioned here in this call, and you'll be way ahead of your competition.
Yeah. Yeah.
How
100%.
how about you? What's something you would advise people
Yeah.
to do?
I think we've kind of touched on it through the call, but I think really just get over that hurdle. It's always going to be daunting if you're not going to start. So I always just encourage people get inside Merchant Center, have a look at some of the reports, have a look at the UI, get comfortable with what's actually going on there, and then start adding all of these different columns within that products reports table. So have a look at what your product types are there. Have a look at what custom labels have pulled through as well, and then just reference that back to what's in Google Ads, and if it makes sense to you or not. So yeah, I always just say get started, start getting familiar, and yeah, like we said earlier, just take it piece by piece. Otherwise, it's always going to seem like an overwhelming task.
Yeah, good tip.
Yeah, yeah, cool. Yeah, so that's everything for this one. Hope you guys found some value, and drop a comment if you have any questions.